Right, let's start with the transfers then. And with just 2 weeks left in the January window, there's still plenty of movement expected. So we've had a bit of movement here. Our chief reporter joins me, as always, Kaveh Solhekol. Let's start with it then. AC Milan looking to make a big splash. Not one, but two potential departures from the Premier League to there.
Yes, I think Milan are close to agreeing a deal to sign Kyle Walker, initially on loan from Manchester City. They're also interested in João Felix from Chelsea. Let's just start with Kyle Walker, though, because our colleagues at Sky in Italy are saying that he may have a medical in the next few days. They believe it's going to be a 6-month loan with an option to buy, and the player has agreed to the move in principle. It also looks like Milan are freeing up a space for him in their squad because they're in talks to sell Emerson Royal, the former Spurs defender, to Galatasaray. So that's Kyle Walker. Now, João Felix, this is an interesting one because Milan have got a new head coach, Sergio Conceição. His agent is the one and only Jorge Mendes, who is also the agent of João Felix.
Now, it's quite convenient, isn't it?
Very convenient. Milan interested in signing him. Again, they would like a loan plus an option. I think if Chelsea let him go, they would much prefer, no-brainer, a permanent deal or a loan plus an obligation. And I think there are quite a lot of other Chelsea players that Milan are interested in. There's been talk that they may come in for Ben Chilwell, Christopher Nkunku, Carney Chukwuemeka. I'm not sure if Milan think there's some kind of buy one, get one free deal going on at Stamford Bridge at the moment, but just to let them know, there definitely isn't.
Right.
These players are not for sale, but obviously both of us know in the transfer market, every player does have his price.
They certainly do. Where does this all leave Marcus Rashford? Because there were talks about him going to AC Milan. That's cooled a bit, hasn't it?
I think some people may be getting a little bit frustrated about how much we're talking about Marcus Rashford because they'll be watching, reading, saying, why do they keep talking about Marcus Rashford? Because nothing's changed. Well, what are the actual developments? Well, I don't think anything has changed publicly, but behind the scenes, obviously his representatives are having talks with lots of interested clubs. Everybody knows that he's on big wages at Manchester United. For United to let him go on loan, they would want all his wages paid. But I think interested clubs know that the closer you get to the deadline, the more likely it is that United will be willing to subsidise his wages. So interested clubs would potentially get a much better deal in 2 weeks' time, closer to the window closing, closer maybe even on deadline day. I think when it comes to AC Milan, I don't think they are going to progress their move for him, according to Sky in Italy. We've been talking about the fact they can only sign one player from the UK. And if they get Kyle Walker, that would mean that they wouldn't be able to get Marcus Rashford. And I'm not sure they could afford his wages at the moment.
Yeah, Zlatan waded in at the weekend, didn't he? Sort of talking about Kyle Walker as well and saying how that was a positive thing to
I think he was asked a question about Kyle Walker and he gave a sort of answer. And then that answer was put to Pep Guardiola, who didn't really want to talk about it very much. He just said, if Ibrahimovic said that, then that's what he said, I think. Which
is great. Actually, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what about the other players from Manchester United? Because it's not just Rashford, actually, is it? Alejandro Garnacho and Antony could be on their way as well.
I mean,
Garnacho and Antony.
I remember 2.5 years ago when United signed him, one of the most expensive signings in Premier League history, cost, I think, an initial 81 million pounds. Arrived, so much publicity, so much hype, but you have to say he has been very disappointing. I think he's only scored 12 goals. He's become a bit part player. United obviously willing to listen to offers for him, but the only deal that's really materialised is joining Real Betis on loan until the end of the season. So I think United will be hoping he goes out to Real Betis, does really well there, and that means they may be able to sell him and get some of that £81 million back in the summer. Garnacho is a bit more of a strange one because I think you would think that most United fans would be like, look, this is the kind of young player that we want to stay at the club. He's only 20 years old. He's come up through the youth ranks. But Napoli interested in signing him, Chelsea interested in signing him. I think Napoli value him at around 40 million euros. That's not going to be enough. I think if United are to let him go, it would need to be for something closer to £60 million. United also, we're being told, are willing to listen to loan offers for Tyrell Malacia, the left-back who's had a lot of injury problems.
Yeah, gosh, so lots of outgoings then. What about any potential incomers for poor Ruben Amorim?
Well, I think the one area of his squad he really wants to strengthen, I mean, there's quite a lot of areas, but I think his priority at the moment is left back, left wing back. Luke Shaw has been out the whole season. Tyrell Malacia has been injured. He's come back. They're going to let him potentially go out on loan. And one of their top targets is the Lecce left wing back, Patrick Dorgu. Now, he's a young, exciting player. He's only 20 years old. I think he was a Danish Player of the Year. I think if United come in for you, then you're going to want to make that move. So that is a potential incoming at Manchester United. But I think they're going to need to have players leaving before they can bring anyone in.
And what about Manchester City? Lots of players seem to be coming in. I know there's kind of like this mini rebuild. We saw Erling Haaland, 9.5-year deal, but lots of players coming in as well.
Lots of players coming in. City returning to really good form yesterday as well, scoring lots of goals. Omar Marmoush is on his way. Abdul Kadir Kuzanov is on his way. Vitor Reich is on his way. There's also been a little bit of talk about Douglas Luiz coming in from Juventus. Now, I wouldn't necessarily put money on this deal happening. I think it's something that Manchester City have looked at, potentially bringing in a new number 6. You could make a very, very good case for bringing in a player like Douglas Luiz, especially if you can do a loan deal with Juventus. Juventus signed him in the summer, 50 million euros from Aston Villa. That move hasn't worked out and he would like to come back. I know lots of other top Premier League clubs have been looking at him. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he was to return to England in the next few days or weeks. I'm not quite sure whether it will be at Manchester City.
OK, you mentioned the fact that he was a former Aston Villa player, but there's apparently a departure from Aston Villa that you're trying to find out.
Diego Carlos.
Yeah,
we reported this a couple of weeks ago. Diego Carlos, Aston Villa centre-back. He's had injury problems as well. He is close to agreeing a deal to move to Fenerbahce, where he would work with Jose Mourinho. I think Aston Villa's thinking is that he's now 31 years old. They're likely to get around 10 million euros in for him. If he is to make that move, then I think they would look at signing another centre-back, perhaps somebody like Bade at Sevilla, the French centre-back, who's I think only 24 or 25. So I think it would make sense for them. But Diego Carlos, Galatasaray were interested in as well. The talks with Fenerbahce have been going on for quite a while, but Jose Mourinho really wants him, and I think he's about to get him.